o'clock. I would like to call this November 7th, 2022 City Board of Education meeting to order. Madam, call roll.
Ms. Hoffman?
Yes, here.
Mrs. Conklin?
Here.
Mrs. LaVallette?
Here.
Mr. Feller?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
And stand for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
I
to
pledge
the
allegiance
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know, I wasn't coming All right. Good evening, everyone. I don't know if everyone on their way here saw the gorgeous, large harvest moon. It's quite significant over Brett Road tonight. I'm going to start with a statement, and in lieu of, well, not in lieu, but because of this weekend's events, I'm going to start by saying it's not often that I take the opportunity to respond to social media posts. But as it was shared with me today in a communication, Facebook sometimes feels like the new letter to the editor and the new town square. And quite frankly, we simply can't ignore accusations that are blatantly untrue or unfounded. It seems there were some accusations, there were direct accusations on Facebook this weekend that accused the Board of Education or district administration of hiding something. And I know this isn't the case, and I feel compelled to address the accusations. So, Mr. Feller, I'm going to take my time tonight to address this. I know usually I'm sharing things that are exciting in the district and events that I've been able to attend and celebrations, but with the seriousness and the accusations that were put forth, I just feel truly, I must say something. Despite the level of energy that was presented on Facebook this weekend, I want it to be known that to my knowledge, out of all the communication and time that was spent with people posting on Facebook, as a district, to my knowledge, we have received one parent email and one parent phone call regarding the individual that has been seen on our district grounds. I need to reiterate, and I've said this before, if our parents or community have a concern about a decision that we've made or actions that have been taken, or a concern that not enough action has been taken, I encourage our families and our residents to contact our Board of Education members, me as a superintendent, our assistant superintendent, or a building principal. We can address your questions. We can address hearsay or rumors that are inaccurate, and we can provide you with factual information about what is going on in our district and in our buildings and around our buildings. It's unfortunate that we have some individuals that choose to spread unsubstantiated theories on Facebook, coupled with quite a bit of disrespectful language and a disrespectful tone from community member to community member. That type of behavior, as I've said before, does nothing but tear at the very fabric that makes Sylvania a wonderful community. With that said, the facts around this past weekend's Facebook post regarding a particular individual are as follows. On Thursday morning, we were alerted by a building principal that on Wednesday evening, an individual approached one of our parents at the outside entrance of a building and asked them for a ride home. This occurred around 8 p.m. The principal did contact law enforcement as the situation seemed awkward, with the individual roaming around outside of the building. Shortly after that communication, we received a phone call from the Sylvania City Police informing us that this individual has trespassed on a couple of school properties and around Northwest Ohio in general, and over the past couple of weeks had also wandered into a residential garage and been caught peeking into a residential window. We also learned that the individual did indeed enter one of our school buildings after hours a couple of weeks prior. The police have been working with the individual to help him understand where boundaries are, and it was the police department that recommended we file a trespass order for this individual to refrain him from being on all school grounds and property, and that he would be served accordingly. The trespass order was completed and served to him, and that email that was posted on Facebook was shared with our administrative team. The administrative team was directed to share the information with their staff and to contact local law enforcement if they witnessed the individual on our property. We also informed our administrators to share this information with our community partners who are using our schools in the evening, such as Sage Art or rec programs. Based on the issues listed and that we discussed in working with law enforcement, the district felt it was best to be proactive and to serve the order to assist in keeping this individual off school property. And I would like to take the opportunity to address that the board and district administration has no reason and has not and will not hide anything from our community or our parents. In fact, I would like to share that as a board and a district and as a superintendent, we want and will continue to be proactive in collaboration and cooperation upon the recommendation of our local police department. And because it was determined that there was not a threat, ergo immediate, direct, or indirect, we responded in working with our Sylvania Police Department. We followed it up with the district protocol and communication. Again, we informed our administrators and instructed that they share the information with our staff members and park and rec personnel. We recognize as an administration that many of our elementary buildings are open during evening hours due to our community partnerships. However, we will take this incident that caused concern and we will review and if necessary refine any procedures by working with our school safety and security committee and potentially bring any and all recommendations for securing our buildings after hours. I will say, when we think about this, we want to keep an open, friendly, safe environment because the priority is to keep our students and our families safe. However, we do have rec programs that are going on in our buildings, and the only thing that possibly could be explored is to provide some type of safety patrol at each of our buildings after hours if we are concerned about these types of incidents in the future. I don't think it is reasonable to expect that every parent that belongs to the rec or a rec center participant get a key fob. Or we can put a security person at each entrance. So that is certainly something that we can explore with our safety committee. But with that being said, we will put out a statement tomorrow to further address the issue. You will have a statement on our website that really addresses some of the things that I'm sharing tonight. But I do want to reiterate to our family and community members, please come to our district first, our district personnel, our district administrator, our board members, if you have any questions or concerns about the safety of our students or protocols or actions that are being taken. I'd rather have you hear from us than Facebook. It is social media. We really encourage our parents and community members to come to us so we can share the legitimate facts with each and every one of you who have a question or concern. On a more positive note, I am going to end with Friday is Veterans Day, and I know we have a veteran on our Board of Education. Many of our buildings have Veteran Day programs, of which I've been invited to two simultaneously. But it is a time for our nation, and more specifically our Sylvania schools, to thank our veterans for their service that keeps our country safe and free. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
I'd like to, Greg, I'd like to thank you for giving that update. But I would like to know that the board, I mean, I don't think the board knew about that. So if anybody would have reached out to any of us, we didn't know. I think it's important for everyone to know, like, the board's not running the district on a day-to-day basis. So we don't always have all the information. We're not making decisions about what is being shared with the public and what's not.
It's true.
Generally, we get information like that, but I know that that just happened at the end of the week. I know from, talking to you over the weekend when I saw it on Facebook and talking to Tim today. But I just want to be clear that this certainly, I don't think you're trying to hide anything, the district's trying to hide anything, but, the Facebook post really referenced the board hiding information, but the board didn't even have that information. So I just, want to make that clear, but we got the call about that. But I've been calling you, saying what is going on.
But the good news is you ended up calling me.
I did
You
end
are
up calling
correct.
when I saw it on Facebook.
And I still encourage, and even if a board member does not know the information, feel free to
Yeah,
contact
yeah.
me, reach out to me, refer the parents to me, to Mr. Ziroff. Did you want to say something?
No, if I could,
Okay.
just for the record, I'm confident we did everything right as a district, as an administrative team with this process. One thing I did wrong was not share that information with the Board of Education as it went out to the administrative team. Whether you're involved directly or not, that's my responsibility to make sure you are all brought up to speed with that. And that is the one miss that did take place, and I take full accountability for that. So that will be, that will not be an issue in the future. I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody here and watching.
Thank you, Mr. Ziroff. Conclusion, Superintendent?
Thank you. Next on our agenda are accommodations. So we are back with you.
Mr. Feller, tonight I recommend for board approval the following accommodations. And this month, or this board meeting, we are recognizing some Southview High School ACT scores of 26 and above. This assessment was taken on September 10th. And also we have additional SAT scores of 600 and above, and that was a test date of October 1st, and the students are noted for their outstanding achievement. I'm so glad that our test actually made it to the testing agency. If you watched the news this morning, there was a FedEx truck that lost all the district's assessments. Only 55 students out of the entire district had their assessments collected, and it's a rather large district in Texas. So thank goodness our students' tests were forwarded and scored, and we have the results back, because that's going to be a tough situation. They will get to retest, but still, it's just, I know, it's just so brutal for our kids, for those students, but thankfully that's not our situation here. I recommend approval.
So I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Julie?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations to those students. So next on the agenda is our first opportunity for public participation for agenda items, and there's nobody here. So I will move on to the treasurer's report.
All right, treasurer's approval. I have 6 items for you guys tonight. The minutes from the previous meetings, I have 3 of them in there, September 28th, October 7th, and October 26th. Treasurer's report for month ending September 30th, because we didn't have that last meeting in October, so this is September. And then, like I noted in my update this week, November's a big month. I'm working on our forecast. We have auditors in as well, so the office is extremely busy this time of year, but we'll have a full presentation at the end on November 28th meeting with an update on our year, and then our forecast for this year and then the next 4 years after that. So 5.3 is just the availability of funds, an annual or monthly resolution there. We did have a few bills on the list there. We have 1 cell phone addition from the previous month. We have an addition of Darren to add to the list there. And then bus bids. You guys had done this before I took over, but we did not actually purchase any, so we need to rebid that. We have been working with Jim. We're going to use some bids that came through with Ohio Schools Council. I've used them in the past. It's a joint cooperative out of the Cleveland area. So all the local companies will bid through there, and they get a big group purchasing discount there. So 2 vans, 2 wheelchair accessible buses, and then 4 regular 72 bus chassis. So with that, I mean, our bus fleet is aging, and these are been needed for a few years here. So we're going to hopefully get those bids out, and waiting on an email. But like I said, they're going to be, you know, with anything and with inflation, they are rising, but it's something that we need. Safe and reliable transportation for our kiddos. And then 5.6 is a Bonefish Systems Agreement, which is an accounts payable compliance monitoring system. It'll help with fraud prevention as well. with all of our group purchasing, or with all of our large purchases throughout the district and all the compliance piece that comes with government spending, I've been looking at this financial system, and I really think it'd be beneficial to my office and with all the spending, big compliance piece there. So, that's all I got.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 5.1 through 5.6 of the agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
On those, on the bus bids, so the way that works is this just authorizes us to be part of the bidding process, and then eventually we'll get like the actual dollar amount for,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll approve the purchases. Once those comes in, I'll approve the purchases as well. And we're gonna use some PI, some ESSER money, and then we do have some grant money that we got last year, $15,000 per bus that we're able to get as well.
So what do we do with the buses that we replace?
We don't really trade them in for basically scrap. We have several buses that didn't pass inspection that we use for our subs, you know, with all of our junior high and high school athletic trips, things like that.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, call roll.
Tammy?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes. All right, Dr. Motley, we're back to you.
Thank you, sir. I recommend item 6.1, an overnight field trip for approval. This trip is for the Southview baseball team to travel to Fort Walton Beach, Florida, March 24th through April 1st. I believe this is an annual trip.
Do you have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I just want to say I appreciate this being in well ahead of time.
I concur, Mr.
But
Miller.
to be clear, they're not even sure how they're gonna get there.
I know.
They don't have the information, it's like a TBD, so it might be a little soon.
I do believe this is supported by the parents of the team members. I think it's solely supported by parents. They drive their kids or fly their kids to get there, and the accommodations. I do believe we're at one hotel, but how they get there is correct, Ms. Hoffman. It's a lot to be determined.
Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Julie?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 6.2, a meal charging and unpaid meal charging policy for board approval as attached. One note of information, this policy has been revised to meet some of the new regulations from the Ohio Department of Education. Just to give you a little background, in the past, if a student, and I don't mean to step on your toes,
You're
right?
fine.
But in the past, there was a time that if you owed money on the books for your student lunch, you were given a substitute lunch. It could be a cheese sandwich or bologna and cheese sandwich. At this point in time, Ohio legislators have said, we're not going to punish kids for things that they are not responsible for. Parents are responsible for
We
that.
haven't done that for a long time.
I haven't been here a long time, I just know we are
Not since
memorializing
I've
the
been
practice.
here. Not since
So,
Yeah, when Joe Shammy was here, I think it probably changed under him because
I know it was recent, it's been in the last 3 years.
2019 is when the official law changed. I think that's when we
I
changed
think we
it
even
as well.
changed it.
I was gonna
Did
say,
we?
we
That's
changed
fantastic.
it
Yes, we did.
beforehand, we were
That
not
is so
doing
good.
that.
We
That
didn't want,
is
we didn't
so
want to
good.
single out kids.
Right.
Right, here, no kid was put on the spot, they just got to take their food and then
That's
it was
awesome.
handled.
And as it should be, because it's all about
I agree.
maintaining the dignity of the child, and a 5, 6, or 10-year-old is not
Or
responsible
16-year-old.
for paying for their lunch fees. So this kind of brings it into, I guess, putting it in writing and memorializing the practice.
Yeah, we're now required by law to have it posted on our website of what our policy is. That just started this year.
But we were already doing this, right?
Well,
And we have been doing it.
We did it, but the policy was not posted on the website.
Right, okay.
So it's a formalized, or word on this, whatever it is.
Well, I'm over
Thank you. I'll second.
Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Julie?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6.3, I recommend approval. This is a memorandum of understanding with OPSI that specifically revolves around some language in regards to the amount of payment that a striker receives while under training.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call roll.
Julie?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 6.4, an SEA memorandum of understanding to establish building level wellness coordinators for the 22-23 school year. This will be paid out of alternative funding, otherwise known as wellness funds.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
What is this position going to do?
I'll turn that over to Josh.
Yeah, so we have the wellness funds that we have, and we reestablished the wellness committee. And so what we'll end up having is a district wellness coordinator, district-wise, that will coordinate all of our building wellness coordinators. And the building wellness coordinators are responsible to, one, get input and receive data from the buildings, to put together and implement wellness initiatives, activities for the entire school year. So it's more of a staff wellness initiative.
The district level, will that be someone in administration?
It can be across the board, so the positions are open to all employees. Most likely they will end up falling into either an SEA or OC members realm versus an administrative realm. And the idea is that, administrator will be too bogged down by this. We have a wellness committee, a district wellness committee that would meet quarterly. And so myself and Melissa McDowell are on that wellness committee. And so the district wellness coordinator will report to that committee. And the building wellness coordinators will have monthly meetings with that district wellness coordinator. So really, it's just an accountability factor to make sure that we're listening to the needs of the building and that we're putting wellness initiatives that they need and want at the buildings.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on what those wellness initiatives are?
But that we don't know. And so we have, from an initial survey that we sent out, Melissa McDonald did, about kind of where the buildings are individually in terms of what barriers they may have, what needs they may want. But ultimately, it's going to be the building's wellness coordinator to reach out to those buildings to find out, hey, what is it that we need? Because we know the needs in each of our buildings are different. So, we were tossing ideas around, but a prime example would be, maybe there's a big need and a big want from an elementary building that, they would love to have an after-school yoga class that would go on once a month and would meet some of their wellness needs. So that could be something that the building's wellness coordinator tackles. It could be, physically based. It could also be socially emotional. Maybe it's a thing where you put together a point system on where if you get, and the realm is big here because it could even be part of what we met with the wellness person. Was it? I would say it wrong. And was it ProMedico or Paramount?
Paramount.
It was Paramount. I always pick Paramount. Sorry. So Paramount. She even mentioned that they can even get involved with the wellness portal, and that you can even put together year-long initiatives where if you enroll into your employee wellness portal, that even things like regular checkups, if I walk a 5K, if I go get certain preventative measures, that you then accrue points through this employee portal, and then we could incentivize that. So right now, what they are, I'm not sure, because that would be one of the responsibilities of the building, a wellness coordinator, to then determine the needs and wants of the building.
Josh, if I could, one of the things every year that I get asked for part of my paperwork that I have to do for the state, for ODE, is do we have a wellness committee? Are we in compliance? And there's a bunch of questions. Do we have a person at every building level that is in charge of that building? What are we doing? Are they monitoring these items? So there are specific things that I will be able to distribute for what the wellness committee person in each building needs to do as well.
There was a wellness committee prior to COVID, and then when COVID hit, things kind of just disappeared. So now we're in a space and position now where we can get that back together and really start to focus on the health of our employees.
It's actually part of our strategic plan for social, emotional, mental health as well. So, that Jill's part of it, so it fits right in. But I think what Josh is, I'm not trying to speak for him, but what we don't want to do at an administrative level is tell Stranahan Elementary what they're doing for their wellness and how they're going to focus on that social, emotional piece. same with Southview or any of our buildings, that's why we're gonna have these coordinators work with those teacher leaders and principals to come up with specifics that's gonna benefit the buildings.
Will there be an MOU with OPSI also?
No, so that was the next question I was waiting for. The MOU, SCA approached me, they wanted to write the MOU specifically because there's going to be these bonus dollars attached to it. I had talked to them and they know that it's solely not an SCA position, and anybody and all employees can apply for it. So I was very clear and they were agreed that that is the case. The MOU with SCA, really the goal behind me saying, yeah, go ahead and write it, was the fact that I wanted to make sure that they were clear that it wasn't a seniority-based kind of bid. It did have to come through an application process that myself, Melissa McDonald, superintendent's office would then decide who would end up getting these wellness coordinator positions. So that's why I say go ahead and write it, because I want it to be an application process, and that's part of that MOU.
So this MOU is just, they're going to write the process and the posting process, and they're gonna write in another MOU or another policy, or how this is gonna go?
I have. So they're out of it at this point now.
So is there a job description? What? Job description
I do.
for this?
Yes. No problem. Honestly. I have. There's some Q&A portions on the bottom of that. It really outlines it. It's not in great detail, but it talks about the monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, who they're responsible for, how they're going to look for resources, who would they come to. So you'll see that on there. I've got other ones if anybody else is interested in seeing it. But
I'm just curious why OPSI wouldn't want to be a signatory to this then, if it's for both, I mean.
And I had actually talked about that, and they still have the opportunity to bid on it. So when I talked to SCA, I told them exactly that. Hey, do I need to have OPSI come on board with this and be a three-way kind of memo? And the discussion I had with SCA was specific to the MOU. Does it state how many exact positions there will be, and does it state exactly where they'll be? So for instance, the plan is to have 2 at each high school, and then 1 at each of the other buildings. And I said, no, the MOU doesn't state that. He said, well, in that case, it doesn't dictate how many positions there are and who they go to. So SCA's stance is fine, that they understand that it can clearly go anywhere else.
This is a stipend, not full-time positions, right?
Correct, because it's paid for out of those wellness dollars, and those are coming in the next handful of years, but we don't know what the future of those will look like. So yeah. And it's not contractual language, so it's not changing contractual language in terms of adding another supplemental. That's not the case.
And this person will report to,
Well, the building wellness coordinators will report to the district coordinator.
right?
And the district coordinator is then going to report to the wellness committee, which is the district committee.
And one more question. Anything set up for monitoring how well this is working and if we're getting the desired results?
That would be one of the function of the district wellness committee. To find out, financially, where are we spending the money? Are we getting the results? Is it worthwhile? Those can be done by a lot of exit surveys and things that we run through the year. It's in its infancy stage, Joe, actually, because again, we have the wellness funds and we want to make sure that people are going to do what we ask of them. So if we're paying them this stipend, they'll be responsible to do that. We'll put them on, those signs, kind of state and read the responsibilities.
I just think in something like this, an evaluation process every so often is needed so that we're sure we're, hitting the goals that we want to hit, and if we're not, then readjust to whatever we need to readjust
I
to.
agree. I think I'll take that to the wellness committee. Let them know we need to figure out how we're going to evaluate the use of this
Right.
at the end of the year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Adam, call roll.
Julie?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes?
Tammy?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 6.5, payment in lieu of for rental contracts for the 2022-2023 school year. There are approximately 18 to 20 parents listed on the list for this payment in lieu of.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Is this the entire list for this year, or could it be
No,
more?
I think as I look at the names, these have come in recently. Some
Right.
of these are just from July through, I think most recently, the latest is
October.
10, yeah, October. So we could anticipate some more potentially.
Does it fall in line with what we anticipated?
That's a good question. Let me ask that question to see how it compares to in the past and then what we anticipated. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call roll.
Greg,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes,
Tammy?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 6.6, a policy in regards to our promotion, academic acceleration, placement, and retention. Policy for the Board of Education. This is the second read, and we recommend approval.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill?
yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Zaborski, with you.
I have recommending approval on a consent agenda basis for items 7.1 through 7.4. 7.4 is for licensed new teacher. 7.2 are licensed substitute teachers. 7.3 is a licensed resignation. And 7.4 is licensed extra duty.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, item 7.1 through 7. I'll second.
Any discussion? Call roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes,
Tammy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm recommending approval of items on a consent agenda basis for items 8.1 through 8.4. 8.1 are classified new hires, state new substitutes, as well as new contracted employees. 8.2 are classified resignations. 8.3 classified personnel changes. 8.4, we have 2 classified retirements. Bonnie Covey, I thank her for her 40 years of service within the district. And Ezane Faulkner, which we found out was an interesting story. She's got 22 years of service. 21.9 of those are all as second shift custodian and coordinator at the court. So she has gone through 7 principals in that building. Amazing. I was one of them. She kicked me out of there.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 8.1 through 8.4.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. I have a quick question. I see there's a couple paraprofessionals on here. Does that help address, I know we have the Central Trail.
It does 2 rounds. One of them is an actual contracted person we're putting over there. The other one are some subs that now we can.
Okay.
I had a question about this. On the classified new hires for the district substitute at ADM, that's administration, right? So I know there's no playground, so they just report, I mean, how does that
So what
work?
happens is that they are district administrative, or they're district subs, and they don't really have a home building to live anymore, so they live with an admin. So what happens is the evening before, like tonight, for instance, with the Frontline app, they're gonna get an automated phone call, and those positions will come open, and they can either accept or decline them. And so they can do that at any building across the district. So any playground, for instance, job comes up, they'll be able to pick that up. So they're not a district sub for one specific building, they're a district sub. So they live within administration right now.
Okay. That's fine.
All right, call roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jill?
yes.
Thank you, and again, congratulations to Easy and Bonnie, appreciate it. I am recommending approval, and I'll do this one separate. I'll do 9.1 as a standalone item, so I'm recommending item 9.1, which is supplemental positions for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill?
Yes,
And Julie?
Abstain.
Thank you. you. I'm going to recommend items 9.2 and 9.3 on a consent agenda basis. 9.2 is some corrections and resignations for supplemental positions for the 22-23 school year. And 9.3 is for athletic volunteers for the 22-23 school year.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 9.2 and 9.3.
I'll second.
Discussion? Call roll.
Julie?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
So next on the agenda is a discussion of the Sage Art appointment. And I'm our Sage Art board rep, so I kind of felt like this is something that we need to talk about and come to a resolution on. So just to make sure everyone's up to speed, so we have 3 school board representatives on the Sage Art board. And they serve 3-year terms. So every year, 1 term comes up and we have to reappoint or appoint to fill that position. I know in the past, I've done it a few different ways in the past, and I don't think we really have a set policy or a procedure how we're gonna handle that, so I feel like we need to have a set procedure.
So are we looking to actually implement a policy or just that will bind other boards, or are we just talking about a procedure that we're gonna follow for this time and in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I don't know that it needs to be a set policy, I think it's more of board procedure.
Normal operating procedure,
Yes.
right, is what it needs to be. And I can give probably a little context, that it used to pretty much be, since I've been on the board, whoever the Sage Art rep was would just say, this is who it is, and people would stay on for a very long amounts of time. And then there was really never any discussion about it, so then a few years ago, I think we started, like, maybe right before you got there, we decided to maybe take applications and interview people to give other people in the community a chance to represent us. And I think and then during COVID, we didn't do that, we just did an
Yeah.
appointment because it was too difficult to
Right.
do applications. And then we started again last year with applications, which I think is a good idea. Maybe so everybody knows, why don't you tell us where 3 are right now? Susie Belfer,
Susie Felder,
Casey Nowicki,
Casey, and John Christine.
John Person,
And
and
John-
John has been on for a very long time.
Yes.
And he's the one that's up right now?
He's the one that's up right now, and he's currently the president.
And he's been on for how long?
That I don't know.
He's
It's,
been on as long, I believe, as long as I've been here,
Yeah.
which is 30.
right. So, I think and I've had conversations with Mike McMahon, the executive director, so, I think there's kind of 2 schools of thought a little bit. I get the, institutional knowledge that someone can gain, and, you want that consistency, especially if someone is willing to keep serving and they're, doing a good job, I get that. On the other hand, like you said, if someone's on for 20 years, then that doesn't really give an opportunity for new community members to be involved. So I just think there needs to be maybe a happy medium somewhere in there. My suggestion is maybe, have a certain amount of automatic renewals if that person would like to continue to serve, whether it's, the initial appointment and 1 term or 2 terms or whatever we feel, and then maybe open it up for applications after that, is kind of what I'm thinking.
So you're thinking 6 years or 9 years automatically? I mean,
If they want, like, if
it wouldn't have to be mutual, because what if they want it, we don't?
well,
What is that? So it wouldn't be automatic, but it could be.
No.
I see what you're saying.
What I don't want to do, whether we do that or, I would be fine with, if the person wants to serve and they're serving well and there's no problems, whether it's 2 terms or 3 terms, if it's good for Sage Art. The whole point of this, I get we want to let community members be involved, but the point of this, if we want invested, dedicated people that are willing to serve, we want to serve this board and have it be our representative on that board. But what I don't want to do is open it up to interviews every single time, just so that we can keep the guy or the girl, the person that is in that spot there.
Right.
I don't want to go through interviews and then just say, okay, well, we're going to keep this person. You know what I mean?
Right.
It feels counterproductive to me.
Is there an interview that's part of the application process, or is it just by application?
Well, last time we did application and interviews.
Yeah, and the time before that. we
Yeah.
did it.
And I know the city does interviews as well. They take applications. I don't know how often or what their, you
That's what I
know.
was just about to ask, you know, if the city or the township have operating procedures that they use for determining who their appointments are.
I believe the city, they kind of, from my understanding, I think they kind of have a procedure that they follow. I don't think it's memorialized. But I think they kind of have just an internal, this is what we're going to do kind of thing. The township, I don't know what if they have a set procedure or not. But I know the city does take applications and interviews.
Each time.
I don't know if they do it every single time. I think they might. Because I remember when I first got on Sager, I was a city appointee and I had to go through an application and interviews to get on.
Was it because there was an opening though? Was it because somebody stepped down and was not gonna? I mean, I'm just curious if they have the application process every single time.
Right, I think they do. I don't 100%, I think they do.
And one term is 3 years.
Right, one term is 3 years.
I think there needs to be a stopgap somewhere. I mean, I'm of the mind, I guess, that no matter what it is, there should be better if there are some sort of term limits rather than people going on and on and on without maybe reapplying. I mean, they could reapply if they wanted, but I think to just let it go on without any kind of, let's stop and evaluate this. You know, there's always people coming in with new ideas. There's something to be said for having been with an organization and knowing it inside and out, and you know what the problems are, could be, or what the issues are, and how to resolve them. But I still think there needs to be some sort of stopgap, even where that person could reapply. But to just say it's open-ended, I just don't think that's
Yeah, I
a really
would.
wise idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't be for just open-ended, unlimited. You know, I do think there's value in, you know, that person knowing that if they're doing a good job and they want to continue to serve, it's, you know, they know they can serve for whatever we decide.
Am I correct that this is a volunteer position?
It is
It's 100% volunteer.
100% volunteer, right?
Do you know what other members of St. Jared Board feel like they, in other words, do they prefer some sort of turnover, whether it's 3 years, every 6 years, and again, that person could reapply.
Right. I don't know about the members. I can tell you the executive director, Mike, would prefer consistency.
Meaning, how's that
Meaning
defined?
if there's a board member who's willing to serve and they're doing a good job, he would like them to stay.
Has he conveyed that to the other appointing entities?
I don't know.
I guess my concern is if you look down the list of members, of the appointed members, only 2 are women out of 9, and one of them is the one we appointed last year. And I don't necessarily want to be stuck in a position where we can't take into account who the other appointments are from the other entities when we're deciding what we want to do as the appointments come up. So not a deciding factor, but to me, it's important to take into account the entire composition of the board and not just who our appointees are.
I would agree with you, and I mean, it's our appointment, and I think that we have to appoint people that we feel are good representatives of the community, and, you know, I feel like that's what we did last time, like that was a consideration, so, I mean, I'm okay with 2 terms, you know, they serve 6 years.
I mean, I frankly would be fine with, why not just have a discussion every time a term's coming up? Hey, John Smith wants to keep serving. This is his first term. He's doing great. This is who's on the board. This is what's going on, and then we can make a determination at that time if we're gonna ask for applications and go through an interview process. What I worry about is closing off future boards when there may be an issue with somebody on the board, or, well, he's only on his first term, we have to give him a second term if he wants it. Well, what if We don't wanna give them a
We don't
second
want,
term.
right?
I don't wanna close off anybody from saying, well, let's open it up. I just think it can be a decision, it's only every 3 years.
It's every year.
Well, yeah, because every, yeah.
Every
But I
year.
mean,
But I don't
so
think
for
we-
each person, we can look at it and say, okay, do we need to open it up this year? Is this person staying? We can make that decision without asking for applicants.
But I do agree with you, I don't want to take applications unless we're making a
Right.
change.
Right, because then, I mean,
We're
that's-
considering making a change, even if we're gonna
Yeah, but I-
seriously consider it.
But that's a very difficult position to be in, if you have, like, you're the one we appointed, you've done 1 term, and they're like, well, we'll consider it, and now they've applied too, and it's, you know, these are relationships in the district, so I think it's still a conversation, because if Greg's a state rep, he's gonna come in and say, hey, I recommend that we appoint, you know, Kim's to another term, she served 1, and then that's how, like I said, we make the recommendation, but if our normal operating procedure is, you know, 2 terms, and then, you know, we take applications, but we don't have to, because if he comes in and says, you know, hey, let's take applications, I don't think it locks us in, because we're not making it policy when they get 2 terms.
That's what I'm saying. I don't wanna make it a policy,
Yeah.
because what if somebody else says, oh, well, I disagree, I think he's
Right.
and I wanna put somebody else up there. I mean, we have to give each board its opportunity to say, no, we wanna open it up.
Right.
I'm good with, like,
So
normal,
just leave it the way it is, every year discuss it and.
Well, I think what we're saying is like, as a general norm, it'll be 2 terms, and then after 2 terms, we're saying, you know, we're taking application, you know.
For
Things
sure.
are going
What-
well, Susie's doing well in her appointment, because she's just like in her 2nd year, so in 2 years, feedback is good, we say, okay, Susie wants to continue, she's our representative, we're good, just appointing her not doing applications. I think we're saying we don't wanna take applications,
just to take out
Right,
just
no, I agree with that.
but after 2
Wanted to-
terms, we're taking applications. It's like a 2-term commitment, or, you know.
Well, after 2 terms, can we discuss whether to, I mean, what if,
Yeah, because, then the flip side of that, if someone's doing a great job, even after 2 terms.
do we,
is that someone-
I mean, are we gonna go through the motions at that point, just to go
Right.
through the motions? I mean, I think we should decide each year whether we wanna go through an application process. But I mean, if we wanna,
I mean, I think that becomes troublesome, because then it's like, oh, you're up, so we're gonna take applications, you're up or not, you know? You see what I'm
Well,
saying?
I think we should only take applications if we decided we're not going to reappoint. I don't like just taking them to test the waters and see what's out there, because there's always going to be great people out there.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I think that that's where we came into the problem previously, that our appointees would just stay on for, you know.
No, I mean,
very long
after,
time.
there's the first term, and then there's the presumption of the second term, assuming everything's going fine, and then after that, we decide, are we going to reappoint this person or not? And if we're not, then we appoint, then we take applications.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're gonna run into a problem if we're leaving it open, like you can get the 3rd, 4th, 5th term, it gets much more difficult to then say, we're not doing it, you know? I'm just telling you that. would be
difficult to
very-
say what, that we're not gonna,
We're not gonna reappoint, we're gonna open it up now, you can apply, but at that point, I mean, we're saying it right here, and we're not just gonna reappoint you, but you're in the money, like that's, you understand what I'm saying, like that's.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying,
That is
but
well, if we're not gonna reappoint someone, we're not gonna reappoint him, it's gonna be a difficult, that's number. I mean, the only reason we wouldn't reappoint somebody is if they didn't wanna be appointed for 1, or if
you mean after 2 terms?
There's
or just 1
issues.
term?
either.
Okay, but then what did we do last time? Because we had a representative who very much wanted to stay on and applied, and then we discussed like, hey, you know, you served for a while, we want to give someone else a chance. So we're just saying that that's the only time we're doing that? I mean, that just, I'm really uncomfortable with the optics of that, because now we're saying, well, if you want to stay, we'd like to stay. We had that happen, and we
But
said.
how is that different than term limits? If we're going, I mean, are we saying 2 terms and you're done? Or 2 terms and we're gonna let you apply again?
I don't have the answer.
Well, what, would you be comfortable with that? That was what, you said you weren't comfortable with what? You said that
Well,
first.
because it seems to me like we started on a path of normal operating procedure, last year, and now we're completely flipping and saying, well, if they want to stay, they can stay, but that's not what we
But
did.
that, I mean, I think this is part of it. Last time that there was this discomfort, it was like we went through that process and it almost felt silly to not select somebody new. When we went through I mean, I think that's what we're trying to avoid. Is if we're comfortable with the person that's serving, let's not, this is very difficult because I love who we selected.
Right.
And I have nothing against who we replaced. And they were not replacing, they were doing a bad job. So, I mean, and it was just it's almost like you had to make the decision going into it that we're gonna reappoint somebody. I guess my point is, I think we have to have the discussion every year.
So should I say, should it just be a yearly discussion meeting? And if that's the case, that's fine.
But just, we're not, or, I'm good with,
I think that's where we are because we're all over the place. So I don't think we're gonna settle here in this moment
Yeah.
on normal operating procedures. And I think that's what we've been trying to do. Well, you've been here for the 2 years, we've been trying to, I got COVID,
Right.
and we didn't do it because,
I think we're all on the same page with the presumption of a second term. We're not, and then after that though, are we gonna automatically interview? That's the question. And you're saying we should automatically interview after the second term.
I'm not.
I mean, that's what you're comfortable with.
I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm saying we headed down a path, and I don't want it to be, and I'm very happy with the selection we made last time, and I have no issue had we reappointed, but that, I think, Frank agree with me, that was very difficult, that was very difficult, and you were saying, well, hey, this person's been on a long time, you know, let's try something new. And now we're saying, like John Presex, you know, I'm sure he's been doing a phenomenal job, he's the president, but he's been on for, I mean, you could probably tell us, but I'm guessing 16 years,
Yeah.
a very long time. So are we saying, because the last time we said, hey, you know, so-and-so's been on a long time, you know, let's give someone else a chance, but we're not gonna do it for him. It's,
Yeah, I know.
we need to be consistent in what we're doing.
Right, and that's all I want is just some consistency.
Right, and we seem to be going down a different path of consistency, making the change last time, and now we're saying, no, let's not, because, you know, maybe the director over at, you know, Sager doesn't want us or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I feel like we should have some sort of process, that's all I'm saying. But whatever it is, if it's discuss it every year, if it's interview every year, if it's interview every 3, whatever it is. I just like the idea of having some process that we follow.
Yeah, I like the
That's all.
idea of a presumption of a second term. And then after that second term, yeah, it just sounds, I mean, what we don't want to do is go through an interview process and then have to select between all these new people who want to do it and the person who's serving and doing a great job and they're not, you know. So if we just, it just seems like not having an interview process if we're not going to reappoint makes sense. But I do get the point that if we want to, you know, change up the composition of the board, we have to have that freedom.
Yeah, and I don't think, I guess in my mind, when I was thinking of it, I was thinking the initial term of renewal if they wanted, and then after the third term, go out for interviews. Not to say, and I was not thinking that means that that person is not getting reappointed, it's just that person could apply with new people, and if that person's the best person, they're the best person.
Well, can we do applications and do we have to interview every time we take, I mean, that's the other
I don't
thing.
think there's no requirement, I don't think we have to interview.
So we're just gonna decide on paper?
I would, if we're gonna do that, I'd rather interview.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, narrow it down to maybe 3 or something, but,
When does this decision need to be made?
well, the term's up at the end of the year. So Mike would like us to have
So next.
someone appointed in December, or December
Okay,
meeting.
my thought is, do we have time to table this discussion, think about it, come back and revisit it when we've had some time to think it through
We do, yeah.
individually?
I would, yes.
Yeah,
We didn't appoint until January last.
Yeah, because just
Yeah.
because Mike would like us to, I don't think it means we have to.
And that's what I was asking.
Like,
It sounds like we need to each kind of think it through ourselves and say, let's.
Right, and we're having this
Because we're-
conversation right in November when we have literally, should be 2 meetings left, but 3, because we have the 5-year forecast. And then, so we'd be having an interview, do all that in this season, so this is kind of like, so I think you're right, we shouldn't be under the gun to encourage them, no, we're not.
Yeah, no,
Appointed
yeah.
before the
And
end.
let's be clear, the stage art meeting is at the end of January, so we would still have
Right, so we have-
at least one meeting in January to do something, maybe two.
I suggest then we table this discussion
Yeah.
and revisit it soon.
Yep. No, I'm good with that. I wanted to at least start the conversation. So, okay. To be determined. All right, so next on the agenda is the second opportunity for public participation for non-agenda items, and there is none. So I would move that we go into executive session for the purposes of employment and compensation of an employee and negotiations.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam call roll?
Greg,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Joe?
Yes?
And there will be no action taken after executive